Welcome to 9Wets TV, welcome to Malaga and the international launch of the 992.2 GTS, featuring, for the first time, hybridisation. Now that is a crucial step in the lineage of the 911, just as crucial in fact as the adoption of water cooling for the 911 in 1998, the addition of turbocharging to the Carrera range in 2017, both of which were controversial but evidently worked out. And now that third step really is hybridisation. This is a car with 540 horsepower, pretty much 1600 kilo curb weight. And what we want to know is, does it add or subtract from the traditional quintessential Porsche 911 experience? We're going to find that out today on road and track. So then, the future is here. I explained in detail the hybrid system and how it works in my first look video on the 992.2 GTS in May, so I won't waste anyone's time in covering it again. Right now on track in the lightest GTS in rear drive coupe form, I simply want to ask, on behalf of all flat six evangelists, is this T-hybrid an exciting Porsche 911 to drive? In a nutshell, ladies and gentlemen, yes. Yes, it is. In ways I never imagined when the concept of a hybrid 911 was mooted. And it's completely changed my opinion and mindset as to hybridisation in the GTS, used in a completely unique way, not just for Porsche, but sports cars in general. The flat six engine, well, Porsche still describes it as the centerpiece of the 911, and rightly so, but now hybrid technology adds to it without a doubt. The noise is unbelievable. So this is the C2, it's the lightest T-hybrid GTS at just under 1600 kilos. That power out there. And it is a machine. Over 200 clicks round Ascari. Obviously one turbocharger now rather than the two, but then boosted with that hybrid technology. The way it feels is naturally aspirated, like genuinely. Minor adjustments on the pedal correlate to minor adjustments in the pace of this car. It really is fine-tuned in a way that traditional turbocharging as we know it just can't hit. There is honestly no lag, and it still has the revvy character of what Porsche calls that centerpiece flat six. But where this really wins is in that low down punch out of corners. We're going to get that here. So that's 610 Newton meters of max torque in the C2 GTS. But 500 is available at 1,500 RPM. So near on peak performance is accessible so early. And to contextualize that, the C2, which I've also driven around Ascari today, at that same point, 1,500 revs, has 300 Newton meters of torque, and that is not a slow car by any stretch of the imagination. But compared to this, it feels slow. This is honestly mad. Mixed with the fantastic chassis that the 992 generation has perfected in the 911, really. An amazing sound being drummed into my ears from behind. Honestly, the capabilities of this thing is mind-boggling. This is a GTS, right? It's not a GT product, but it is so capable and so quick. And in this, the lightest hybrid GTS at 1,595, just under that 1,600. It doesn't feel anything like 1,600 kilos. The power available, for one, makes light work of the mass it moves, but also responsible is the sharpness of throttle response when in Sport Plus mode, the fluidity of the steering, and the conviction of the GTS's chassis setup. And it's here where the 911 bears the fruits of some 61 years of continuous evolution. Alongside the excellent and commutative Sports PASM chassis, which is active suspension to you and I, we've got rear axle steering, which is now standard spec on the GTS, and perfected to serve low-speed agility and high-speed stability, which is unobtrusive to the driver. Likewise with Porsche Dynamic Chassis Control, available as an option from November but fitted here, is now powered by the hybrid's high-voltage system and is more powerful, more precise, those active anti-roll bars reducing lateral body movement and aiding the feeling this new 911 gives of going round corners as if it were on rails. None of this takes away from the new GTS's ability to still behave like a traditional 911 though. You can still steer this thing on the throttle and enjoy huge traction out of corners. It's much like the T-hybrid system itself, always working with the iconic flat six and never on its own. The system enhances the 911, bolstering its revvy, characterful engine rather than unduly altering its persona. I think what's so clever about this is, to the uninitiated, they may not even realise there's a source of e-power on board, let alone two if you count the 15 PS delivered by the GTS's eTurbo. On paper then, this performance hybrid is a monumental step change in the 911's engineering direction, but unlike the aforementioned water cooling or the addition of turbochargers in its past, here there are seemingly no drawbacks or sacrifices made to the 911's core DNA.
Why did we ever doubt Porsche? Such exquisite engineering. The sum of its parts is genuinely extraordinary. It's even got me thinking, do you need a GT3? That's how engaging this thing is. Listen to that noise. Porsche engineering, I doff my cap because that is incredible. That is honestly incredible. Who knew that hybrid technology would attack the synapses in such a way? That is honestly fantastic. But we would like to know if that T-hybrid technology is accessible on the road and what it's like in the heaviest 911 of all time, which is the Targa 4 GTS. It sounds so good, and let me tell you, 1,745 kilos, on paper this may be, but in reality, it does not feel like the heaviest Porsche 911 of all time. This thing can move, and do you know what? Added to that, the soundtrack is fantastic. Don't forget, this is a Targa, so you know you'd usually expect you know, a little bit of wind noise coming through. There is a tiny bit, but not a lot. The 992.2 with the GTS hybrid system has 325 section tyres on the back, so it's, you know, the biggest, widest tyre ever to sit on the back of a Carrera GTS derivative. But rolling tyre noise is like pretty much non-existent. So all of the noises you don't want are absent, and all the noises you do want to hear, well, they are absolutely here in abundance. And again, yeah, 1,745 kilos. It sounds heavy. It is heavy, right? That's din weight, by the way, so, you know, plus me after that. But the way this thing moves, the power, it makes a mockery of the scales. It's definitely more noise in the 992.2 GTS over the 991. No question. It sounds fantastic. And I've been outside as well, by the way. This isn't all kind of fake augmented sound via a sound symposer. You know, the sound is, at least in the main part, genuine. It really does sound as good as what you and I can hear right now. So I'm hearing a great sound from the engine under acceleration. There is also a slight but perceptible whine, clearly coming from the electric motor, and actually it's quite pleasing. Definitely adds something. And then when you let off, you've got a really nice hiss. This doesn't have a wastegate now. The eTurbo does away with that. So it's a very different soundtrack, and a soundtrack that we've never had before in a 911. Completely unique. Completely unique, and I have to say, very pleasing. On roads like this, it really does add to the sports car experience, and this is where I'm now going. Yeah, I'm liking it. I'm liking this performance hybrid. The power and acceleration this thing has is unbelievable. Where there is just no turbo lag now, you're having maximum torque, really, or you know, peak performance delivered very quickly. And it means, like this thing has the ability to absolutely shoot out of corners. I have to be honest with you, when I saw this car on paper with its weight and, you know, the hybrid system, I hated it. I thought that is not going to be enjoyable one little bit. That's not an enthusiast car. You know, how dare it even have the 911 name on the back, really. I was getting that passionate about it at one stage. But do you know what? Driving the car, as is often the case, and it just goes to show, you know, we must trust in Porsche's engineering because they are absolutely the best at it. The reality of this car is absolutely sensational. You know, and what I really like about this car, you know, this Targa, it's so multifaceted, right? So I'm going to pop it into normal mode. Sport exhaust is off. PDCC, dynamic chassis control, is all off. And I'll take it out of manual even, so it'll change up at the earliest opportunity. And it's silent. And this is what I mean. Very little rolling tyre noise, very little wind noise. A nice, easy, quiet car to, you know, slip out of town in, but then get up into the twisties, and this, you know, heavy beer moth that the scales are telling you just does not come to fruition. Really, really clever, multifaceted, high-class Porsche engineering. Other changes with the 992.2 GTS. No analog tacho ahead of me. I have to be honest, I don't mind it. I don't mind the fact it's gone now I'm here. You can get a classic view which gives the 911's iconic 5 dials. But actually, because this car is so good, perhaps, it's kind of forgiven. The reality is I don't mind as much that it's gone. Let's stick this back into sport and everything else. But yeah, any case, other points to note visually and changes for the 992.2 is with this display ahead, how the system is working is being conveyed to us. So under acceleration, kind of similar to the setup if you've driven a Porsche E-hybrid, and the way that will flip between like regeneration and then like using the system. Kind of similar here in terms of how it's displayed. The system does have a slight regen under mild acceleration, not just braking, but then put your foot down and the display goes the other way and it becomes a blue line, and that shows when the high voltage system is, and therefore the e-motor is being deployed. My God, I love it. I absolutely love it. Wow. My opinion of the Targa in like 991 and 992 form has always been, you know, great car, boulevard cruiser, kind of slightly flawed dynamically, really, especially like the 991.1 naturally aspirated car. Without the boost of turbocharging, it did feel quite heavy and cumbersome. It needed the turbocharger of the turbochargers of the 991.2 to really get it moving, but again, still felt quite lumpy. This is the first time, the first modern Targa since it went back to that classic roll bar design, where I feel it's resolved in terms of how it drives. It feels like a 911, a multifaceted driver's tool. I think it's great value. Brilliant. Initial thoughts on it, absolutely incredible. Makes all the right noises and is actually far more characterful, really, than the 992.1. I actually look at the £10,000 price difference now and I think it's worth it. What I like about this car is it gives us everything we've always loved about the 911, so that immediacy of throttle response, how it feels light through the wheel and through turns and directional changes. It gives us all of that. But whether's on reflection, previous generations, that's kind of been mitigated or offset by, you know, turbo lag, quiet engines. This solves all of those problems, like genuinely solves all of those problems, because it makes great noise. There is no turbo lag, so that kind of scalpel knife throttle response that we love for 911s is still very much there, with a characterful engine at its heart. Absolutely, that hybrid and e-motor works with the engine harmoniously. It doesn't overroar it, it doesn't take over it. So actually, that is my synopsis. That is a very, very clever car. I wanted to hate it when the car came out. I didn't want hybridisation going anywhere near the hallowed Porsche 911. As an overall package, it's a brilliant car for the modern day. And I agree with Frank Moser, head of the 911 line, who says that they've future-proofed the 911. I actually agree with that. The other point to note is I think that where Porsche is using hybridisation for performance purposes, rather than like an e-hybrid setup where it runs on fully e-mode, it's the Porsche's own advocacy for its belief in its e-fuels production. I think that's a really important point that is going to become ever more pertinent under the march of time. If that wasn't the case, then the hybrid system would be different and it would run on like purely e-power at some stage. It doesn't. The engine very much is the jewel in the crown for these cars that really we should expect will be driven in 50 years, 60 years time, just like the early cars are now, okay? And obviously for that to happen, e-fuels is going to play a very big part in that. It's nothing I've been told or what I've learned or understood from this launch. That's just my own opinion. I want to make that very clear. Porsche's done it again. Fantastic engineering. I hope that answers some of the questions. I'm looking forward to seeing where the hybridisation and the T-hybrid goes from here. I'm the biggest 911 purist, diehard evangelist there is, and I am all for it.